I've got a handful of screencasts that are going to get you started with the Ultimate Organizer project. There's a lot that I'm not going to be showing you in these screencasts that you're going to have to kind of connect the dots. But just to get you started, I wanted to give you a few screencasts. The first one is how to add a category to the spreadsheet. Let me just show you what we're going to be making in this screencast. We click Add Category, and it comes up with this user form. So this itself is a user form that I've made, and it has new category name, and I might put something like name. It's going to add a category, so you see that it's placed it in row 1, the leftmost empty cell of row 1. And then I can do something like address. We add that category, and it adds it to the next one. So it's automatically detecting when I do add category how many categories already have names or labels in row 1. And I could do something like phone, number, and so on. So that's what we're going to be creating, just this simple subroutine and user form to do this in this screencast. So I've already created this pretty simple user form, and I've got a label here. I've got a text box. I've called this new category name. I've got an add category button, and this is just command button 1, and I have a quit button, which is command button 2. The quit button is pretty easy. That's just unload user form 1. So that'll unload user form 1. Let's go ahead and in a module, I'm going to open up a module, and I'm going to put sub run form. And all this is going to do is user form 1.show. And this is the subroutine that we have associated with the button here. So I'm going to go ahead and assign macro to that run form subroutine. So then when I press this button, it'll run the run form sub that opens up user form 1. And then the last thing we need to do is to code behind add category. Now we need to make it such that it will detect how many labels are already in row 1. So we're always going to start from the left, and we're going to keep going to the right. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to click add category button, and here we have our command button 2.click. We're going to be iterating, and I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. So I need to dim I as an integer. I'm going to want to select range A1, so cell A1. Now for all of this and a lot of the stuff I'm going to be doing in these screencasts, I'm assuming that there's only one sheet. If you had multiple sheets, then you're going to have problems with ambiguous references. So if I had multiple sheets, I'd have to make sure I'm doing sheet 1.range A1. So I'm just assuming I have one sheet. First thing I'm going to do is I want the program to select cell A1. That's going to be kind of our starting point. And then what I'm doing is I'm entering into this do loop. And what I'm doing, and you could actually do this using a for loop too if you counted the number of rows. But right now we don't have anything in row 1. We don't have any labels. And so I'm going to do this approach. So I'm going to say do. So I'm entering into a do loop. I equals I plus 1. So the first time through, I will be equal to 1 because I going in is 0. So we'll set I equal to 1. If is empty, so is empty you can use to see if a cell is empty or not. So I'm going to active cell offset by, right now, I is equal to 1. So I'm going to active cell offset 0, 0. And that itself is just cell A1. So basically what I'm asking on this first time through is cell A1 empty? If that's true, then I'm going to exit do. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to find the first empty cell. If I had labels already in here, so if I just had, things like this, then I'm going to keep going through. So if that were the case, if I had labels in cells A1 through C1, then the first time through, the A1 is not empty, so I bump I up by 1. I active cell by offset by 1 more column and check to see if that's empty. It's not. So I would go to the third one. It's not. And I go to the fourth one, and it is empty. So I would come out of this at being set to 4. So in this example, it would mean that the fourth column of row 1 is empty, and that's where we're going to put the new category. But that's not what we have in this case, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And the last thing we need to do then is in that cell that's empty, we find that the ith cell is empty. We're going to then offset, we're going to active cell offset, and we're going to set that first empty cell equal to the new category name. So userform1.new category name is whatever they enter into this box when it pops up. So we're going to go ahead and place that into the first empty cell in row 1. So this is pretty easy. That's what this does. So let's go into my module 1. I'm going to press F8. We're going to show userform1. I'll just put something like name. We add category. We bump into the command 2 button, click. I'm going to select A1. And then I enter into this do loop. So let me bring up the locals window here. We see that right now I is equal to 0. But now we bump up I by 1. And we're saying if is empty active cell offset 0, which means same row as my active cell, but I'm going to active cell offset, now I subtract 1. For example, right now I is equal to 1, so I don't want to active cell offset anything. That's why I subtract the 1. So if is empty, if that's empty, which it is, then I'm going to exit the do. And I'm just going to set then the active cell offset 0, 0 equal to whatever's input into this new category name text box here. So when I press F8, we put name here into cell A1. And now if I wanted to do this again, I've got the user form still open. I might put something like address, and let's go ahead and do add category. We step through this. Now I'm going to select A1. Now I is going to be 1, but now I'm looking to see if cell A1 is empty. It's not, so then I bump up I to 2, and essentially what I'm doing is I'm checking to see if B1 is empty, which it is. So I'm going to exit the do loop, and then I'm going to set that cell B1 equal to whatever is in our new category name box here. So I should put address in there. And then we can keep going and going. The quit button is just unloading the user form, and then we end sub, and we end the original subroutine. So that's how you can add categories to the Excel spreadsheet using a user form.